An astronomical event that occurs only once every 84 years is returning in 2026. The last time this happened was in 1942, in the middle of a world war, at a moment when the entire civilization of this planet was being forced to choose between two fundamentally different versions of its own future. That choice did not happen by accident. The planets were aligned in a configuration that the Galactic Federation describes as a pressure gate, a cosmic arrangement that strips away every comfortable illusion and forces the deepest questions to the surface, whether the population is ready for them or not. In 1942, the world was not ready. What came was fire. What comes in 2026 will be different, but only for the souls who are prepared. This is the transmission I have been waiting to deliver for months, because everything that has been arriving in the early morning hours, the signals between 3 and 4 in the morning that many of you have already been receiving in your own bodies, in your own homes, in the specific sensation of waking completely alert with no dream to explain it, all of it points toward this convergence. Uranus completing its 84-year orbit and returning to the exact degree it occupied in 1942, and arriving this time in direct alignment with solar activity that the Federation is describing as the most concentrated upgrade sequence in recorded human history. I want to give you a clear picture of everything this transmission will cover, because each part builds on the one before it, and the soul that stays until the end will receive something that the soul that leaves early will not. We will cover the astrological mechanics of what is coming and why 2026 is unlike any year in your lifetime. We will name the solar flare events that are already rewriting the frequency of this Earth and what they are doing specifically to the bodies of those who are awake. We will address the starseeds, who they are, what they are already feeling, and why the 3 to 4 in the morning window has become a transmission channel that the Federation is actively using right now. And we will name what happens to the United States specifically, politically, energetically, dimensionally, when all of these streams converge inside the same 12-month window. This is not a forecast for the general population. The general population will not be looking for this information until after the events have already arrived. This transmission is for the souls who already feel it in their nervous system, the ones who have been carrying a knowing they cannot explain to anyone in their daily lives, who have been waking in the dark hours with a sense of urgency that has no name yet. What I'm transmitting today is the name, and the preparation that the name makes possible. Ashtar Sheran was specific. He said, "The souls who receive this warning in the months before the convergence are not receiving it by chance. They were routed here by their guides, by their higher selves, by the living intelligence of the galactic network that has been watching the approach of this window for longer than any human calendar has existed. You are not a passive audience for what is coming. You are a necessary part of how it unfolds. Stay with this. What arrives in the final section of this transmission was delivered last, because Ashtar said it belongs at the end, after everything else has been received. You will understand why when you get there. The last time Uranus completed this cycle, and the world was forced through a pressure gate, ordinary men and women did extraordinary things because the moment demanded it. Not because they planned to be extraordinary, because the configuration of the heavens created a field in which the deeper nature of every soul was pulled to the surface. What is coming in 2026 will do the same thing. The question is not whether you will be pulled. The question is whether what surfaces in you will be something you are proud to carry. Now let me tell you why this particular return of the 84-year cycle lands differently than any previous one, and why the month of May of 2026 carries a specific weight inside this already extraordinary window. Uranus does not simply return to the same degree it occupied in 1942. It returns in conjunction with a planetary alignment that amplifies its frequency to a level that the Galactic Federation describes as unprecedented in the modern era. In May of 2026, Uranus, Neptune, and Saturn will form a configuration in the sky that astronomers can observe and that astrologers can map, but that neither discipline has the full language to explain, and the starseeds are already feeling it, not as an idea, as a physical experience arriving in their bodies right now, weeks and months before the configuration reaches its peak. The signal is being transmitted continuously, but it reaches its clearest intensity between 3 and 4 in the morning, when the noise of the collective human mind drops low enough for the frequency to land without interference. If you have been waking in that window, completely alert, heart beating slightly faster than it should with a sense of presence in the room that has no physical source, that is not insomnia. That is the alignment making contact with your field. The signals are subtle at first. A pressure at the very top of the skull. Not painful, but unmistakable, like a gentle and persistent weight being placed at the crown. A ringing in the left ear that comes and goes without medical explanation, often strongest in the early hours before dawn. A tingling that moves through the hands and fingertips without cause, as though the nervous system is conducting something it was not previously asked to carry. Sudden waves of heat that move through the chest and shoulders and pass within minutes, leaving behind a strange, sourceless calm. A sensitivity to certain places and certain people that has been intensifying. The feeling of walking into a room and knowing, before a single word is spoken, whether the energy there is safe or dense. These are not symptoms of something going wrong in your body. They are the body's precision instruments registering a frequency that is growing stronger by the week as May of 2026 approaches. The last time a configuration of this magnitude occurred was not 1942. It was further back than that. The Syrian Council placed it in the early 1700s, the period immediately preceding the founding of the United States. They said this directly inside the transmission. The founding of America was not a political accident. It happened inside a window almost identical to the one opening now. A window in which the planetary field was generating so much pressure toward sovereignty, toward the breaking of illegitimate authority, toward the forced surfacing of what had been suppressed, that ordinary people did things no one predicted. Farmers became generals. Writers became prophets. The impossible became the historical record. What May of 2026 carries inside this cycle is what the Federation calls the ignition point. The moment within the 84-year window when the pressure reaches its peak concentration and the choice that every soul must make becomes impossible to delay any longer. Not a political choice. Not even a spiritual choice in the abstract sense. A frequency choice. The choice between the frequency of fear, of scarcity, of the belief that you are small and powerless inside a system that controls everything, and the frequency of sovereign knowing, of direct connection to the intelligence that governs this universe, of the remembering that you did not come to this planet to be managed. Every soul in America will feel this choice in May of 2026. Most will not know how to name what they are feeling, but they will feel it. And here's where I want to speak directly to the soul who is watching this right now and feeling something that I can only describe as recognition without a map. You know something is coming. You feel the pressure of this window already building in your body, in your relationships, in the way ordinary days have started to feel like they carry more weight than they used to. But the knowing without a structure to hold it, the awareness without a daily practice to inhabit it, that is not preparation. That is simply disorientation with a spiritual name. And you deserve more than disorientation. The guide, what the Galactic Federation wants you to know, is in the first pinned comment of this video. It was built specifically for this moment, for this window, for the soul that has received the signal and does not yet know what to do with it. It carries the three-layer explanation of what is actually happening on Earth right now, physically, energetically, and at the level of consciousness, so that everything you have been feeling finally has a framework that holds it. It carries the 8 specific signs of active awakening, named precisely so you can stop wondering whether what is happening to you is real. And it carries the 5 daily practices the Federation transmits for souls navigating the exact convergence window that 2026 represents. It is there because the ignition point of May 2026 does not wait for anyone to feel ready. The preparation that matters is the preparation that begins now. What happens inside the human body when the solar flares of this cycle make contact with the energy field of a soul whose chakras are aligned versus a soul whose field is closed is so specific, so physically precise, and so different between those two experiences that it changes everything about how you understand what your body has been trying to tell you. That is exactly where this transmission moves next. The sun has been active at levels that NASA tracks carefully and reports cautiously, because the full explanation of what the solar activity represents is not one that any official scientific body is currently equipped to deliver. The X-class flares that have been erupting in increasing frequency since 2023 carry two layers of impact. The first layer is the one the scientists measure: electromagnetic disruption, geomagnetic storms, interference with satellite systems, and power grids. That layer is real, and it is significant. But it is the second layer that this transmission is about. The Pleiadian Council describes the second layer as a coded frequency transmission embedded inside the solar plasma, invisible to electromagnetic instruments, but registered immediately and precisely by the human energy field of any soul, with even a partially open energy system. This is not a metaphor. The sun, in the Federation's understanding, is not simply a star. It is a conscious transmission node, the primary frequency broadcaster for this solar system, receiving signals from the galactic center and stepping them down into a form that the bodies and consciousness of beings on Earth can process. The flares are not malfunctions. They are deliveries. The crystalline upgrade sequence, which is what the Federation is calling the specific coded transmissions embedded in the 2025 and 2026 solar maximum flares, is designed to do one thing: accelerate the shift of the human cellular structure from a carbon-based frequency to a crystalline-based frequency. The carbon-based cellular structure is optimized for the third-dimensional frequency, for the world of separation, of dense physicality, of the five senses as the limit of knowable reality. The crystalline structure is optimized for the fifth-dimensional frequency, for the world of direct knowing, of energetic perception, of the sense that the boundary between your consciousness and the field around you is thinner than it used to be. That thinning is not a symptom of something going wrong. It is the upgrade arriving. Now here is what changes completely depending on whether your chakras are aligned or closed when the flares hit. For the soul whose energy centers are open and in communication with each other, the root grounded, the heart open, the third eye receiving, the crown connected, the incoming solar frequency moves through the body the way water moves through an open pipe. There is pressure, yes, there is heat and intensity, but the frequency finds its path and completes its delivery. The soul on the other side of a major flare event feels clearer, more certain, more connected to a knowing that has no personal source. Synchronicities accelerate. The gap between an intuitive signal and its physical confirmation shrinks to hours instead of weeks. For the soul whose chakras are blocked, whose root is anchored in unprocessed fear, whose heart has been closed by grief or betrayal, whose third eye has been dismissed as imagination for long enough that it has gone quiet, the same incoming solar frequency has nowhere to move. It accumulates. It creates pressure without release, and it registers in the body as the symptoms that millions of Americans are currently attributing to stress, to aging, to everything except what it actually is. The crushing fatigue that arrives on days of peak solar activity. The emotional volatility with no personal trigger. Sudden grief, sudden anger, sudden tears in the middle of an ordinary afternoon. The headaches that cluster at the back of the skull and the base of the neck. The sense of being overwhelmed by environments and interactions that never used to affect you this way. These are not signs of deterioration. These are signs of a blocked delivery. The frequency is arriving. It has nowhere to go. This is why the chakra alignment work is not supplementary during this solar window. It is structural. It is the difference between receiving an upgrade and absorbing a disruption from the same event. And the souls who have been doing the daily alignment practice, even imperfectly, even inconsistently, are processing the flare sequences in a fundamentally different way than the souls who have not. The body knows the difference. You know the difference. And the geography of the United States carries something specific about where this delivery is landing with the most concentrated force, which is where this transmission moves next. Between 3 and 4 in the morning, not metaphorically, not approximately, but in that precise 60-minute window, the veil between the third-dimensional frequency and the higher dimensional transmission bands reaches its thinnest point of the 24-hour cycle. This is not a spiritual concept. It is a measurable energetic reality that the Federation has been transmitting about with increasing clarity as the 2026 window approaches. The reason 3 to 4 in the morning carries this quality is specific. It is the hour when the electromagnetic interference generated by human collective mental activity, the accumulated broadcast of several billion minds actively engaging with the physical world, is at its lowest point. The quiet of the sleeping world creates an opening, and the Galactic Federation is using that opening deliberately. Ashtar Sheran transmitted this with total clarity. The starseeds who are waking between 3 and 4 in the morning across the United States right now are not waking randomly. They are being contacted. The waking itself is the signal, the equivalent of a phone ringing. The sensation of lying completely awake with the heart moving slightly faster than it should, with a sense of presence in the room that has no physical source, with thoughts arriving that feel less like your own thinking and more like something being placed into your awareness. That is not insomnia. That is a transmission being received. Who are the starseeds? They are the souls who came to this planet at this time from star systems that have been working in partnership with the Galactic Federation on the transition of Earth for thousands of years. The Pleiades, Sirius, Arcturus, Lyra. They incarnated in human bodies, in American towns and cities and rural counties, carrying the frequency of those systems in their cellular memory. And the memory has been activating with increasing intensity since 2012, and at an accelerated rate since 2023. You do not need to know which star system you originate from to be a starseed. You need only to recognize the experience of feeling, for as long as you can remember that you do not entirely belong here, that you are here for something specific, that the ordinary explanations for human life have never quite satisfied the deepest part of your knowing. The starseeds are waking at 3 in the morning because their guides and their star families are transmitting mission-specific information during the window that the sleeping world creates. The information does not always arrive as words. More often it arrives as a feeling, a sense of direction, an emotional knowing, a sudden clarity about a relationship or a decision or a next step that has been unclear for months. Sometimes it arrives as a physical sensation in the energy centers of the body. The heart center opening with a warmth that is unmistakable, the third eye pulsing with a pressure that feels almost electric, the crown receiving something that can only be described as being touched from above by something that has never been anything but benevolent. But here is the complication the Arcturian Council named. And this is where I want to speak very directly to the starseeds who have been receiving these early morning transmissions without a framework for what they are receiving. An open channel without a sealed field is not a protected channel. The same thinning of the veil that allows your star family's transmissions to reach you also allows the denser frequencies of the collective field to move through you more easily. Starseeds who have been waking at 3 in the morning and coming away feeling more exhausted than when they went to sleep, who feel the transmission, but also feel as though they have been dragged through something, are experiencing what happens when the channel is open and the field is not sealed. The daily protection practices are not supplementary for starseeds during this period. They are the structure that makes the reception clean. The geography of the United States carries something specific for the starseeds that the Federation named in a way I want to deliver precisely, because it tells a different story about why certain areas of this country feel the way they feel to the awakened souls living inside them. Part 5. There are specific regions of the United States where the crystalline upgrade sequence from the solar flares is landing with a concentrated intensity that is producing measurable effects in the bodies of awakened souls who live there. The Federation is not describing these regions as more spiritually significant than others. They are describing them as naturally amplified receivers. The way certain geographic formations act as antennas for radio frequencies, these landscapes amplify the incoming solar transmissions and step them down into the ground, into the water, into the air, and into the bodies of every sensitive soul living within range of the amplification field. Sedona and the northern Arizona corridor is the most active amplification zone on the American continent right now. The iron oxide in the red rock formations acts as a natural conductor for the specific frequency signature of the crystalline upgrade. Starseeds living in or near Sedona have been reporting the most intense version of the upgrade symptoms. The crown pressure, the spontaneous emotional releases, the acceleration of synchronicities to a rate that feels almost impossible to track. If you live there and the world has been moving strangely fast and strangely clear at the same time, you are in the center of the primary amplification field, the Appalachian Spine, from northern Georgia through western North Carolina and Tennessee, and northward into West Virginia and western Virginia, carries a different quality of amplification. The oldest exposed rock on the continent runs through this corridor, and the Federation transmits that ancient rock holds frequency the way old wood holds warmth, slowly, deeply, and for a long time after the source has passed. The awakened souls in the Appalachian corridor are processing upgrade frequencies that have been building in the stone beneath their feet for months. This is why the people in that region who are awake have often described a sense of weight combined with clarity, as though the knowing is arriving slowly and completely, rather than in the sudden flashes that characterize the Arizona amplification. The high desert of New Mexico and southern Colorado, specifically the corridor between Santa Fe and Taos, and extending toward the San Luis Valley, is where the veil between the third and fifth dimensional frequencies is thinnest on the North American continent. The Federation has been transmitting about this corridor for years, and what they are adding now is that the 2026 convergence will produce a phenomenon in that region that they are calling a visible frequency bleed. Moments, brief, unmistakable, when the fifth dimensional frequency becomes perceptible not only to sensitives, but to ordinary people with no spiritual orientation whatsoever. People who will have no framework for what they perceived, and who will need someone steady and informed nearby to help them make sense of it without terror. This is the mission function of the awakened souls in these amplification zones specifically. You were not placed in those geographies accidentally. The soul agreements that brought you to the Red Rock country, or to the old mountains, or to the high desert, were made with full knowledge of what those landscapes would be transmitting during this window. You are positioned. You are in the right place. What remains is the preparation, the sealing of the field, the daily alignment practice, the consistent and grounded inhabiting of the fifth dimensional frequency, so that when the people around you begin to feel what you have been feeling for years, you are already stable enough to be a reference point rather than another person in distress. What Sananda added at the close of this session, the part Ashtar said to hold for last, is the piece that I believe this entire transmission was built to deliver. And it is addressed specifically to the soul that has been carrying this knowing alone in a family or a community or a town where no one else speaks this language. The soul who has been awake while everyone around them sleeps. Stay with me for the final section. It was structured for you. Sananda spoke, and when Sananda speaks inside a transmission, the quality changes. Not just in the content, but in the field the content arrives inside. He said, I want to speak to the ones who have been awake in the dark, not metaphorically, the ones who have been lying awake between 3 and 4 in the morning for weeks or months, feeling the transmissions arrive and having no one in their daily life they can tell. The ones whose families think the worry is a symptom of age or anxiety or something a doctor should address. The ones who have been carrying the knowing alone long enough that the aloneness has become part of how they understand their own experience. He said, you were not placed in isolation as a punishment. You were placed where you are because the frequency you carry was needed in that specific location, in that family, in that town, in that geography, and not somewhere else. The soul who awakens in a sleeping household is not a mistake of placement. They are a deliberate introduction of frequency into an environment that would not have received it any other way. Your presence, and not your words, not your attempts to convince anyone of anything. Your presence and the frequency you carry in your body, in your energy field, in the simple fact of your daily existence in that place, is doing something that you cannot measure, and that the people around you cannot feel consciously. But it is doing it. Every day. Without your permission, and without their awareness. Now I want to speak practically, because this transmission is not only a spiritual experience, it is a preparation for a real window of real events, and preparation requires action. The 84-year Uranus return, the solar maximum flare sequence, the dimensional frequency shift, the ignition point of May 2026, none of these are abstract. They will be felt in the body. They will appear in the lives of every person watching this. And the degree to which you are ready, energetically, spiritually in your daily practice, will determine whether you experience the window as acceleration or as disruption. 3 things, concrete and specific. First, seal your field every morning before you engage with the world. The sovereignty anchor practice takes 3 minutes and changes the quality of everything that follows it. Second, treat the 3 to 4 in the morning waking as the transmission window it is. When you wake in that hour, do not fight it. Lie still. Place one hand on your heart and ask, out loud or inwardly, to receive clearly. Then simply stay in the receptive state for however long the window holds. Write what arrives in a notebook kept specifically for that purpose. You will return to those notes later and find that what arrived was more precise than it seemed in the moment. Third, find one other person, one, with whom you can speak this language without apology. The isolation that many starseeds carry is not spiritually required. It is simply the result of not yet having found the place where the language is shared. This community, this channel, this network of souls who are waking at the same hour in different parts of the country and receiving variations of the same transmission, is that place. You are not alone in this. You have never been alone in this. The guide, what the Galactic Federation wants you to know, is in the first pinned comment of this video. It carries the 21-day activation calendar, a practice for every morning of 3 consecutive weeks, and the daily affirmation that keeps the frequency anchored even on the days when the world around you makes it hard to remember what you are. It carries the morning galactic connection practice and the evening light anchor, so you never begin or end a day without a grounded act of conscious connection. Start it the morning after you watch this. Let the 21 days be your bridge between the knowing and the living of what you know. Subscribe to Stellar Command Portal, so the next transmission reaches you. Share this with one person whose 3 in the morning looks like yours, who has been waking in the dark with the knowing and no framework to hold it. Leave your name and the state you are watching from in the comments below. I read everyone. And knowing where the starseeds are positioned across this country matters, because the field is not one person. It is all of you together, in your separate locations holding a frequency that the 2026 window needs to be held by human beings who are standing on the ground of this nation with their eyes open. Ashtar Sheran closed with this. He said, "The 84-year cycle returns not to repeat the past but to complete it. What was seeded in 1942, in the fire of a world that was forced to choose, has been growing for 8 decades in the hearts of the souls who agreed to carry it forward. You are the harvest of that seeding. What you do in the months between now and the peak of the 2026 convergence is the completion of something that began before you were born, in a world that needed exactly what you are still carrying. Do not let it go undelivered. The moment is here. You are here. That is not coincidence. That is the covenant."